Listen to the world around the outside pressing in.
Hello, I am Research Specimen 18. I am a direct connection with numerous organizations that have created me and turned me into what I am. My mind is literally a computer system for Uncle Sam.
Listen to the world around the
Hello,
outside
how are you doing?
Well enough on this evening. I am 6, Research Specimen 18. How are you doing today, Miss PSI CHIC?
I'm doing really, really good. Now, you and I have been wanting to do Tunnel Talk now for a while, and
Yes.
basically you have kind of been declassified, so where you can come out now and tell whatever you want, right?
From my understanding, that's what I was told, yes. In my case, when I was younger, as a child, I was part of secret testing through Uncle Sam. When I was little, I was part of what was called the God Project.
The God Project?
Yes. They took numerous children from different military backgrounds across pretty much the world, mostly connected with other programs, like my mom was in testing as well. She was part of a breeding program in the 70s. And pretty much all those kids went, hey, let's mess with their genetics and see who survives. It was actually recycled German research.
Okay, well, let's try to take it back. Your mom and dad have some really unique DNA, is that right?
Yes. My mom was a human reptilian hybrid, one of the few semi successes, and my father was a half human, half Nordic.
Let's go back. Your mom was half reptilian and what?
Human.
Human.
She was reptilian and human, which is hard to do. It's the DNA structures do not mix, and they've only had a few semi successes in trying to create a hybrid.
So, what kind of reptilian? Kind of fill us in because when people think of reptilian, you know, they're thinking of the lizard people and the things like that.
Well, there's numerous species of reptilian. In my mom's case, I think it was one of the native ones, actually.
Native.
Reptilioid species. There is a species native to this planet. They've always been here. They live underground. They're very sacred about taking pictures of them and things like that. And then you got your like deep space giant like winged Dracos, which are more of negative energies, more likely to use humanoids like us as a food source than actually view us as unequal. And then
Well,
there's a couple others that are all connected with the Dracos.
now do they look different or you know?
They look pretty similar, but they all have differences in like coloration and size for the most part. Some
Okay.
have wings, some don't, but for the most part, they're just humanoid reptiles.
So, in your mom's case, she looked like a human but had reptilian characteristics or more. Was she more like a reptilian?
More characteristics. You could see it in her facial structure from time to time. The way she molts is not like a normal human.
The way she what?
Molts, like the shedding of skin.
Oh, okay.
I somehow got that a little bit too. Every once in a while, I'll just molt in a weird way, just like, okay, why is my body peeling like this?
Wow, that's so interesting. What kind of blood type did your mom have?
Then I'm not sure. I probably should know these things, but I don't even
Okay.
know my own blood type, to be honest.
And then your dad. Now your dad was Nordic. You said Elven or
that that
was
is that is kind of a close. What we would consider Elven as an alien species is actually a mix of 4 different humanoid species, all with very similar capabilities. All of them, what they have in common is they're psychic. But the Nordics in particular, they're very tall psychic humanoids.
Very tall psychic humans.
He was born here.
Okay, so both your parents had the human aspect, and they had the DNA of Nordic and Reptilian, and then here comes Six. Now, did they start messing with you before you were born, when you were in the womb, or did they wait till you got out?
That I'm not sure. I don't have full recollection of that. They did start taking me in when I was younger, like 2, 3, 4, 5. They would like come, they'd take me for a little bit, they'd poke and prod me, show me the tunnels, and then send me back as they're taking me. And I could literally see them taking me as they're returning me in some of those situations. Because just the way that they've used time to make it to where, hey, we did what we needed to, but nobody knows that they're gone. Keep the charade up.
So now they didn't take you physically, or maybe they did take you physically, but they
did
altered
take
time.
me physically.
But they
did
alter
alter
time
time.
each time?
What they would do is it's almost like it feel like it's slowed, and there was this weird fog that would come across, and they would come in quickly in like a black bag type of situation. They'd grab who they wanted, they'd leave, and then, as I said, they take me and I'd go there for like some training or testing for like, say, a week or a couple days, or even in some cases a year, and they just send me back right as I left, as if nothing happened.
Right. Okay, so you said they would come in like a cloud or a mist?
Yes. There's
Now-
normally a mist ahead of time, and a lot of that is a neurotoxin that they put into the air, which is a mild hallucinogen, in order to make people sleep paralyzed. So it's less likely for somebody to get up, wake up, and move, since they understand how to do that just from aerosol chemicals.
So I've had that happen to me, Mark. I've had, it would be like a cloud coming at me, and all of a sudden it would open up, and I'd see people, and they'd be like, whatever. Like, I could feel my hair blowing back, and it would be like, and then that's it. I don't remember. So then they would physically take you and then alter time, put you back to where you just, it was like you never left, right? Because that's what I've heard from the others. I don't want to really call them super soldier, Mark. What do you call them? Test subjects?
In my case, yeah, I was a lab rat. I mean, I wasn't even good enough to be a soldier or have my service recognized. They could have just swapped the title of "you served" and put me overseas to do some bullshit, but they refused to credit what I've done for them in time periods that technically have not even happened yet.
Wow. So what do you mean? They put you in the future and done things with you there?
After they did a few years of like genetic testing and messing with me, and like they do things like they take me into this weird room and they'd inject me with numerous needles over and over again, and then in some cases they'd start cutting off my limbs and slowly watching them grow and take notes as I feel everything.
Yeah, I've heard that. Like, did they put needles in your fingernails and things like that?
Everywhere, pretty much. The worst part of the experimentation that I can somewhat remember is they had this weird machine that I was like locked into, and it's almost like it was like a needle and thread, but it was like going directly to my molecular level, my molecular scale, and was like forming each part and re-energizing. I don't even know how to describe it, just other than re-sewing all my DNA one tiny bit at a time. And I sat there for 4 weeks in that particular situation until they fully got it done. I was the only one to survive that.
So were they interleaking another form of DNA in with yours, like sewing it?
I'm not even sure all what they did to me. They did they put me through too many damn things. They pretty much went, okay, your grandpa was a disgrace that pretty much sold you into military services family. So let's take this kid
Wow.
and see how many experiments we can do on him and have him either until he dies or is no longer useful.
So do they sell you for money, or is it type of a contract where they have to pay, like for instance, maybe they did your grandfather some favors and then he had to pay back with, you know,
They did him some
money?
favors. He did some darker things and he was disgraced, and they stopped him from getting jail time for his actions, as well as doing some cover up for some things he did that were a little more sick.
Okay, so this is kind of ringing true with some of the other stories.
My grandpa was from the United States, but he did work in an American base in Germany, the same American base that my mother was born.
Okay, so kind of over there with the Nazis and
Hmm.
all the testing that they did, and then ended up coming over here.
Yeah, his job was to man the red phone at the base in Germany. I forget which base. That
Wow.
means nuclear strikes. If anything come down to it, he would be able to make a phone call, type in a number on a very specific red phone, and those would send nuke points where to nuke.
Wow. Okay. All right. So then, in order to let him off the hook, was it the United States that said, we want your firstborn or your grandbabies or your whatever? Was it the United States?
Um, yes, it was. In fact, my mother's entire contraception was done by them because they had two daughters that were a little bit older, and they personally wanted a boy, and they forced my grandmother into pregnancy with my mother. And yeah, they pretty much did testing on her off and on. I mean, I barely remember half of the stuff I do. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm immune to most of their wipes, I'd
Hmm.
be a blind, drooling idiot. I mean, the damage those things do to your brain. Wouldn't be surprised if a lot of fucking people that have had their minds wiped don't have problems with aneurysms or brain tumors.
Tell us how they wipe. Tell us what kind of technology, or how do they go about wiping brain? Is that a chemical that you were saying that they spray and then you lose memory for a certain
Mhm.
time, or do they
That
wipe your
is the
memory?
drug to grab you. That's not their mind wipe. That's
Okay.
to disorient you, put you in a slight, mild hallucination, and leave you somewhat paralyzed. When it comes down to the mind wipes, they have numerous ways to do it. They learn through stuff like MK Ultra, certain
Hmm.
sound patterns and light patterns, as well as vibrational frequencies, can actually rewire your brain and or drive you mad. They still haven't fully mapped it out, and they're a little bit barbaric. But if they were to refine it a little bit, they could do it to somebody without noticing through a television. Just literally, you're watching TV and this flash of lights and noise come up, and you just forget what your government did for the past like 48 hours. Not
Wow.
even joke. And
Ha-
or what they'll do is they're very advanced in their tech to the point of they can literally swap your consciousness into a computer and vice versa. AI exists. I actually did a lot of work with other little girls and boys that were their job was to make these supercomputers. It was my job to be a backup contingency to take them out if necessary.
to take the computers out?
Yes. The first few things they did to me is they would take me and they would, study my intelligence, see what I was capable of, and, just mostly just watch me and see how I reacted, especially to like orders and things. And then they took me in for my first year. And that first year was psychological training and breaking me down and the beginning of certain genetic experiments. And they continued that off and on by year 3. they finally put me through a hologram program, which it's scary how it's dark and real it is. And they put me through numerous simulations to try to train me to kill on command, no matter who. And it's shit like that you never forget, you know?
This is just you're giving so much detail. I know before you couldn't talk about a lot of this stuff, so this is the
It's
first time
hard.
I'm hearing it. So basically they genetically transform you, and then they have you go and do these jobs, and they had the girls building these supercomputers, and then they had you linked in to where you could destroy the computer if you had to, right? Something like
In
that.
my particular case, what they did for me is the God Project is trying to create a sentient psychic super soldier with full capabilities over it to be able to psychically be, I just killed you from 2,000 miles away psychically, or I'm able to condense my spiritual energy into a physical plasma ball. That plus regeneration. They trained me in small arms fire as well as machine gun fire, throwing knives, a little bit of hand-to-hand combat.
Okay, and then did they ever just kind of leave you alone for a while and just let you kind of have a normal life?
They kind of started doing that around 14 after they started putting me on particular meds to try to dwell my mind and pretty much zombify me, and I got off of them. They watched me. They've taken me and my mom into facilities from time to time to do checkups and things. When it comes to my abilities, they have a special nanobite freaking shot that they give you to reactivate your cells. They'll give you a shot before they, like, as they take you and before you leave, to make sure that once you're back in U.S. soil and no longer doing a mission, I couldn't just openly shoot a plasma ball. Yeah, I can do those things, but it takes a lot more focus versus being directly injected, you know?
So they kind of activate you and then they deactivate you. When they activate you with like a nanotech shot or something?
Yes.
And what is that kind of, how does that activate you?
It has a very particular chemical in each of the nanobites, and they kind of swim throughout the bloodstream, and they just release it. And it just kind of flows in.
Wow. What's going on with your mom and dad? Where are they at right now?
My father is deceased. He died of a quote unquote heart attack a month before I was born. I suspect foul play in that particular case, because all it would take in this situation is somebody comes up from behind him with a needle, gets him in a vein just right, and injects a big enough air bubble into his bloodstream. It goes through, it hits the heart, boom.
And your mom, where's she at?
She's around America,
Okay.
slowly trying to fix her life, dealing with some health problems, but hopefully things will be a little better off for her.
So if someone was to run into her in the street, would they be able to tell that she was half reptilian? Or does she kind of, morph, or does it tell us a little bit about that?
Well, in her case, she doesn't morph. You can just kind of see it in her eyes and part of the way her skin goes, but for the most part, no. It's really hard to tell. I mean, she just has some slight psychic abilities, and as I said, the skin peel thing. But other than that, she looks really human. I mean, it's not like those videos on YouTube of like quote unquote Justin Bieber fucking changing eyes and changing into a reptilianoid form, because she was born that way. It's not like there's an entity taking over her and changing her genetics,
Oh, I
and
see.
or an illusion barrier being broken and you seeing them a little closer to what they truly are, not what their illusion has been trying to show you they are. Because that's a lot of how these reptilians work. They send out a psychic field that changes your perception.
Of how you see them.
hmm Even though if you took a picture of a true reptiloid, it would show up as a reptiloid. That's why it's taboo for them to have pictures taken of them. There was actually a picture not that long ago on YouTube, like a few years back, of an actual reptiloid that got taken down quickly. That was real. That's what happens. The background's glare, it went black a little bit, but it showed his actual outline, even though everything else seemed somewhat blurred. And that's because of the camera was picking up the illusion slightly.
So, as far as your mom's case goes, so does she have like more psychic abilities, strength, or what makes her
Psychic abilities in her case. My mom was always your local witch, giving people random advice that always worked out, just randomly out of nowhere. She'd dream of, like CSI cases and literally just randomly given tips that gives information to catch somebody or something like that. And she was just constantly stuck in it. It overwhelmed her. It was too much for her to take. Still probably is to this day.
Wow. And how would someone know if they were part reptilian?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, like for me, with my mom, I mean, as I said, I could see it slightly in part of her facial features and a little bit of, like I said, with her skin, but it doesn't always show up. And there's very few actual successful hybrids like my mom is. My mom was a special case, just like I am a special case. Of everyone that was in any of the genetic experiments I was in, I'm the only survivor I know of.
So you think that you're the only survivor? Is can you confirm that, or did you watch people die one by one, and you were like the only one left?
I would watch them take them away. I'd watch them bleed out. I'd watch them just start reacting harshly to the regeneration serum. Fucking turn inward. Some of these things just way too hard to fucking describe. It's like literally watching a physical mass grow out of someone's arm, start bubbling up, and then invert inward and turn into a mass blob inside another part of their body, a physical flesh.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, what else do you want to talk about that kind of happened? Like, so at 14, you were able to kind of start living your own life, or,
Yeah.
have a life.
That's the last time that they had me do any sort of mission or anything like that. I mean, at 16, they brought me in for me and my mom for a day, because of some, because of some spiritual abilities I had. They had to come in and try to unactivate my cells because I found a way to do it myself. So every once in a while, they'll come in and do something like that. But for the most part, they kind of just watch me from a distance, and most of the time they have to hire a real life physical person because I don't understand it. Even with like cell phones and stuff, they'll be asking me if I'm in Washington when I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm just like, how would I be in Washington right now? It's almost like a VPN being able to reroute where you are, but on the network constantly.
Explain that a little bit more. So now
Like,
some of the black ops or some of the military groups or some of these people are still monitoring you. Who are these people, if you could say?
there are numerous branches of hush hush units as a mix of numerous countries for black government usage for either genetics or control situations. They pretty much watch me because I'm a danger.
Do you have
I'm a danger in their eyes.
those implants?
No,
Implants?
they didn't do implants quite for me. In my case, they literally rewired my brain to be a computer system for a secret government. It's kind of like the dark net, but it literally runs off spiritual, which has physical servers that can pick it up. So anything that they do inside their specialized computer system is literally inside my brain. And I can see it and I can feel it. And it's a vast, deep web.
Wow. I've you and I have talked a little bit about. Now I've had some weird experiences, but like I'll have dreams where I'm on a military base and I'm walking around with those cool glasses and I'm walking around with the camouflage jacket, and then I wanted out of there, and there was somebody at the gate, and they said, if you want out of here, you just got to press that dial. So there was actually a dial in the wall, and I'm like, yeah, I want out. Went up to it, boom, and I was out. Um, I've also had other experiences where I was like in a cave and almost looking like a humanoid, like a android, and looking through a cellophane like cover in the cave, and again there was a dial in the middle of the cellophane. So
That
weird.
particular dial, what it does is it changes the frequency in the portal. It's pretty much here, let me dial in radio frequency to where I want to go so it can start changing the vibrations. And then once I activate it, boom, I can walk through the door to the set locations that have a similar setup that are able to pick that up and channel you through. It creates a direct wormhole.
Oh, okay, okay. And I've also had experience of flying through wormholes and seeing myself as a little child laying like this, go moving through a wormhole and flying all the time. I've flown out of my body and flown up a clear glass tunnel so high that all I could see was weird colors. And I flew way above the city lights, and it got to me where it was too scary. I'm like, there was just nothing but colors and weirdness. I just came back. But
You were
I used to,
seeing the fractals of the universe. Um, you were at a point to where you had ascended spiritually to where you were connecting directly with the universe. Maybe you didn't ascend mentally and physically enough, but you were spiritually able to just flow through it, and you were just flowing through everything. And the second you got to the fractals, they can get scary.
yeah,
Those fractals are hard to comprehend with the human mind. Even just looking at one of those images makes you go,
yes.
your
And then
face starts melting like an Indiana Jones type feeling, you know?
and then several years later, I had another vision where it was like a kaleidoscope had busted above me, and I was flying like on my back, flying like this, like falling, and the pieces of the kaleidoscope glass were falling with me. And I had a big like crash. I felt like a big crash. And then it just broke this kaleidoscope, and I went falling. Crazy. I mean, I've
I'm
had
pretty
some
sure
really
that
crazy.
has a lot to do with a lot of the things been going on spiritually. Your vision of the base probably you probably were tested on when you were younger. That's probably what the vision of the wormhole was. It probably was nothing major for you. They'll do a lot of testing with people, especially anyone that has any psychic abilities. They'll pretty much test to see if you can fly the ships and be controlled, and if not, they just send you on your merry little way. Because a lot of alien tech requires you to be psychic of a certain level in order to, fly the ships in the first place.
Yeah, so I just want to mention one or two more things, and then we'll go ahead and
Mhm.
move back on with your story. So I get a lot of like radio communication. I just hear them talking to me a lot. It's like radio, and I get a lot of these frequencies. And then one time I heard him say, "Hello, Aunt Kim," like an ant hill, because I used to live in Tehachapi. I know there was a base under there, and so I was laying in once I was in Vegas. This was, I want to say, 5 or 6 years ago. I was laying in bed, and literally an astral cap came down on my head that had like all these wires, and it literally tried to suck my whole being out of me. And I said, "No, I am not ready." It's almost like they were trying to suck me out of my, I don't know where, but I said no, and it stopped. Do you know what what the heck is that about?
That's going to take a lot of explanation, because that has to do with something that's going on simultaneously with our physical world that is not in this time period, but as I said, is happening simultaneously with us, even though it's from our far future. In that sounds like, they were trying to integrate you pretty much out of your physical form and directly into the computer, because in that far future, we're in a simulation. We're no longer
Yes.
human, and it's really bad. So anytime they can get extra protein to feed the rest of the masses, if they can directly connect someone's consciousness into a computer, they're going to, just to
Right.
save face.
I felt it was something like that, something weird, and I also felt it was something like the Matrix. You know how the Matrix, where they're in this chair with this thing, and then they go out into
Yeah.
the Matrix, but yet simultaneously they're actually in a chair connected to these gadgets. Is it something like that? I mean, is that real?
It's different. It's a lot darker, to be honest. I mean,
Oh,
we don't look human anymore. Pretty much picture where, like, like the butt of like a bug or a beetle. Imagine that with like humanoid feet and like misshapen hands growing out of it in like a circular mass, as like a slight humanoid torso comes up that's just malformed.
oh wow.
That's the average being there, a crone. And what they're in is they have helmets on that control their hearing, their sight, their smell, and they have tubes connected to their mouths that will feed them, connected to big tubs of whatever's left over.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the list goes on with those experiences, but we'll talk about those later.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a little different.
um,
Connected, but it takes a lot to get into.
so moving on, what are some of the missions that they put you on?
Well, there was a rogue AI that me and a group of 13, 14 other children, when I was 7, went, and it was our job to take out the rogue AI unit and get the US base back, dealing with literal future drones from even now and fucking robots designed to kill on sight unmanned.
Now,
We succeeded in that one.
was that on Earth or was that somewhere else?
That was on Earth. I'm not sure what year that one was, but I'm pretty sure that was the farthest future they sent me to.
Okay,
And
so they
then,
sent you in the future to do this,
yes,
and you were able to stop it?
we were able to get back to the mainframe and reset everything. And it took all of us and our very specific skills to do so. And even then, we lost 5 of us.
Wow. Do you remember like traveling through the dimensions or time at all?
Um, it's like they normally do it through the tunnels. They do it through the tunnels, and or did they just like as the dials, like they just tune it in.
Oh, through tunnels.
Hmm.
Wow. That's
There's
incredible.
a huge interconnected portal system tunnel that runs throughout numerous government bases off planet, and you could literally be at one physical place in the planet and walk to this tunnel and accidentally get through a portal and wind up in China not even knowing how, even though you were just in, like, say you were walking through the desert in Nevada and you fell through a hole and you start seeing these big gems and you see a structure ahead and you take a right and all of a sudden you're walking out and you're in China or something like that. It's the best way to describe how they'd work. And even though it physically ends in a place and it's just, the connection of the portal, the, the specialized wormhole, freaking you would see it as if it was just a normal tunnel. You could just keep walking. Even though it physically ends, and if they lost power as you were going through one of those, you'd be ripped in half.
And so that's pretty incredible. So you kind of saved humanity, or
Oh
you saved
no.
one version of humanity, or
No, that was just taking out a rogue AI at a military base that had weaponry and tech they needed. Me save people? They had me go in. 2 years later, they handed me an Uzi, reactivated my cells, and had me go after and massacre a rebel cell in the year
military?
2038. They sent me as a fucking 9-year-old to go fucking kill those motherfuckers. Kill people ruthlessly for no reason, just because they rebelled against a totalitarian government in control at the time. I was just a weapon for that.
Wow. Okay, so that was like just one of many, or did at some point they say, "Nah, we're done with them"?
They didn't like me. A lot of their training and stuff didn't work on me. Heck, they trained me to kill myself by this age. You know what I got to say to them?
That's what I've heard about the super soldiers, is they have like a program to self-destruct if they wake up or do anything crazy. I mean, something like that, right?
Yep, they will train poor children that they have to go out and kill people, and also that if they get the order or command, you will kill yourself for Uncle Sam. You are not a human being, you are property. You do not exist in yourself. That's one part of the reason why they hate me so much. Because every time they've told me that, I've just looked at them and went, "You're on drugs, buddy." And then I'd escape the fucking base. I've escaped numerous bases. I'm surprised they
Are
let
you
me
able to
physically
tell?
live.
Are you able
I
to
think they
tell?
kind of just gave up on me after a time.
Well, why aren't those people messed with to where they have more abilities where they could control you? They don't do that?
How can you control the whole point of the project that they put me in, me being the only survivor, was to create a sentient psychic god. How do you control a god? How do you
So
control a
because
being
not
that can
many,
literally
okay,
psychically grab you from 1,000 miles away and you
that
physically feel it?
okay, so let's go on into the abilities that you've suffered through, but that you ended up with.
For the most part, I'm a werewolf. Because of what they did to me, I'm able to regenerate because of what they did to me, and I'm able to shoot plasma balls and psychically pick up on practically anything. I'm pretty much, ooh, look, it's a spy in another country getting us the intel we need because we told them to focus over on that area. Both America and Russia have been doing work on that, and some of Russia's psychic warriors They're sleeper cells too, so that gets even scarier.
Mark, a lot of people, a lot of humans, or maybe not all humans, but some humans are born with some of those abilities. Wouldn't you say?
Not everybody's quite 100% human, so to say. All of us are humanoid, but we have such a mixed cultural pot of numerous humanoid species fusing, and this is like the fourth or fifth iteration of the human species. If the actual true history is, we were originally created as a slave species. It didn't work out. They killed us off, reset everything over and over again, and we're the fourth or fifth iteration of that in a giant petri dish. I mean, in space, there's galactic police forces and fucking bounty hunters and refugees and wild, wild west in some of the deep parts of space as they're literally going to war in some cases, and or sitting there crying on some high council for peace when the truth is, I'm sorry, you need a military option when there's species going in and decimating planets and pretending to do a piece of court just to go in and take whatever they want, abusing the systems. In fact, I fear that for a future. I fear they're going to release full information, and now every citizen of Earth is now been drafted into the galactic military empire.
Wow. So now that's a lot for me to wrap my head around. Because it's not that I haven't known about some of this. It's just that they're always trying to say it's conspiracy, but yet I've had enough experience to know that a lot of this stuff is real. A lot of it's
everything's real. It's just not quite the way you would think it is.
Well, it's like interdimensional, or is it becoming more physical? Are the dimensions joining to where it will become more physical?
There is a fusion event. They are physical. They're just a different wavelength. The only difference between us and another dimension is our vibration force. Once they start getting in tuned, they start showing up in the same place, because they may show up on the same place physically, in space-time, doesn't mean they're at the same vibration to flow their matter physically. And in some cases, that could lead to destruction of planets, people. All of a sudden, something that's an open field turns out to be a home for some alien force or an alien military base. And literally, they're living on the same planet as us, just in another dimensional frequency. A lot of them are refugees. Some of them are coming to here. Yes, extraterrestrial beings do exist, but most of the quote-unquote ETs you're going to find are extra-dimensional beings. They come from another frequency or another time period. And you'd be surprised at how many of them are actually future humanoids from our planet, our same government and things, literally just through time, not even a different dimension, trying to change events to make their future better.
What about some of us? Do you think some of our future selves are here? Past, future selves are here?
It's possible, but they'd be hunted down constantly. I mean, that'd be the secret priority force one. The last thing they want is somebody from the future with abilities to come back here and change shit. Especially some of the darker shit they have planned and have done. Say me from 40 years from now finds a time portal and comes back to here and tries to stop some research that is later on going to be used in some FEMA camp and decimate millions of human lives just for fucking some sick experiment. They would hunt me down ruthlessly. There'd be physical fighting in the streets, and it'd be a bad situation. I mean, if there is, they're keeping hidden, they're keeping a low profile, and they're trying to do what they can in the now, having lived what happens potentially. And as I said, it's one potential, all flowing back to us. It's numerous timelines and dimensions all flowing simultaneously back to a convergence point, which is going to happen. The dimensions will fuse. It just happens so often. Before the universe resets, we're reborn, and then we're stars, then we're planets, then we're some of the first, small sentient life, and then just never ending recycled, born again until we're back to something just like this. It's never ending. I mean, we're eternal, we're sentient energy. So what can you do? We're going to be at this point again.
Mark, now I've heard the word sentient, and a lot of people have heard the word sentient being. Can you tell us what that means? What does sentient mean?
Well, sentient means that you are able to view yourself and the world around you, perform at least simple thought, and being able to get the contraception of I am. Now just imagine.
Oh, okay. So you
You're
have
a
a
living
self-awareness.
energy source. You're a living energy source, and you've been in and out of physical bodies, back and forth. But every time that you die, it's like part of your energy gets cleansed entirely, which makes you forget your experiences. But the whole point of going on and on and on is to have those experiences in the first place.
So it's like a form of energy that has a self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Would that make sense?
That's what the soul is. The soul is literally a sentient part of yourself. It does take up a physical weight. It doesn't weigh very much, like literally like 0.8 grams for the average. But no, the soul has a physical weight, and it's literally just an energy pattern that has full awareness of itself, and can affect other things, aka ghosts. Either that's interdimensional beings, demonic dream things, or sometimes it's literally just, hey, I lived before. I figured this out because I've been stuck here for a while. Here, let me message you and show you I'm here.
So you said that you're part werewolf, and we have discussed this before. And so did they kind of inject you with something, or how did you go about becoming part werewolf?
My father. I got it from my father. That's one of the things I was born with. I was born a genetic freak werewolf. I got turned into an even more of a genetic freak hybrid.
Tell me more.
Me being a natural born were means no, I don't change every full moon. It's more or less, hey, I just dealt with a pure raw emotion, or I'm in a danger sense and my adrenaline's kicking off. Oh crud, my body's shaking and stretching and changing. And then it's super painful, and every time I blacked out at first. Like I'll catch myself after the fact, but I'm not gonna lie, when I turn, it can be dangerous to those around me, especially if I'm in a super stressed situation.
Got it. So what? So you said that you blacked out at first. Well, do you remember how old you were before you had that first episode?
Um, Now pretty much since I was 5, that earliest memories. I remember freaking being the little were kid. I mean, they call me Silverback. They ain't talking about a gorilla. And the reason they call me that is because when I turn, most of the time, I just kind of like spin on my back in a weird way, and use it's like a weird Krav Maga. And but I'm silver. That's the color of my fur.
When's the last time you had one?
It's been a few years now, and I'm actually worried about it. Last time I was 17 years old. So it's been over 10 years now since the last time I've turned. There's been a few times I almost have, but it's like a constant state of meditation to try to stay in control of it. Having plenty of protein and keeping the beast in check, stuff like that.
So when I met you, Mark, I had already had a precognitive whatever, and I actually saw you walking. And so when I met you, I didn't realize it was you until I saw you walking, and you kind of had a little bit of a limp in your leg or something. And I thought, oh my God, I had this wow. And so when we started talking, it was like incredible the amount of psychic awareness and the things that nobody knows about me and you actually knew. So
I just am able to tap into things. I mean, I couldn't remember it for the life of me, but when it comes to my true psychic abilities, I can just tap into the universe and get direct answers of whatever it is, whatever is going on. But if I try to like go back onto it, or somebody asks me or pokes and prods,
right.
I get false information. But if it's literally just that I'm tapping into the energy force, boom, I have every answer you need.
Yeah.
Part of the
I
reason
do
why
that.
a lot of people view me as a either somewhat cult leader-ish or guru-ish, but reality is I'm just another guy.
Well, so because I can remember just like I don't know. I can only call it like streaming in, downloading information, streaming in, because all of a sudden I just have all this knowledge. And I can remember sitting at work and having just write and write and write and write it to almost to where I was getting nervous, like, oh my God, am I going to lose my job? Because this information, it just keeps coming. And I had to just keep stopping doing my work and coming over here and writing this stuff down. And a lot of it I have logged on Facebook because and then it pops up every year and I'm like, oh, now I know what I was thinking then. But so incredible amounts of information that just came out of nowhere that I've seemed to have. And then,
Just being able to tap into what's known as the library, which is an energy source we are all connected to, is kind of part of a collective consciousness of all of us. It's a place where all information is stored.
yep. Um, but yeah, you were able to pick up on a lot of things too. And then so when we started hanging out, it was like, oh my God, I knew right away that I wanted to do some kind of a show with you. And it's literally taken how long have I known you?
It's been years now.
Yeah, because then you took off and went to to Colorado, and I lost touch with you and things like that, and then finally it's like this is time, and then you weren't able to give a lot of information, so it wasn't really ever time. But then all of a sudden now they declassified you, and it was like it's just so perfect right now that we're doing this
Well,
series.
it's that, and sometimes I have to re-experience it before I can talk about it, because there's a lot of things I wish were gone forever from my mind. I wish some of their mind wipes had worked. They were
Oh
doing
yeah.
it for good cause. I mean,
So didn't they experiment with a lot of different medications or different types of drugs or chemicals or
mhm.
what was
They've been doing a lot of research, especially on being able to activate and deactivate fucking abilities at will. They've been doing that through meds. They've been changing genetic structures through meds. Anything to change, chemical balance in my brain, stop me from being able to get to that pure emotional state to turn. Um, Mostly just to zombify me and pacify me. That seemed like the number one goal in the meds they put me on in particular.
Mark, would you say that the World Health Organizations and the big pharma and all the chemical organizations companies are basically just that testing that they're still trying to still mess with our genetics and
They
and
do it
that's
to
how
our
big it is?
food. They're messing with their genetics through the food we eat by pumping chemicals into that, the fluoride in our water. I mean, everything is designed to change our genetic structure, and it's going to lead to a pretty dark future. And it's probably too late to change it. I mean, we're so integrated on some of these chemicals that were man-made, that are constantly being fed to us, that what happens when we live without them for even one generation, when everybody's addicted to them and don't even realize it.
So what's their ultimate goal? Are we all supposed to be psychic warriors? Or are they really just trying to turn us
No,
into AI, or what's their agenda?
we're lab rats. This whole planet is a petri dish under controlled circumstances to just mess with genetics of whatever. They give us false illusions and try to keep us in a system of control and dumb down, because there's ETs flying overhead. Fucking there's people going through and spraying chemicals on our fields, and it's not to get rid of bugs. Half the time it's to either cause a weather storm in another state, while at the same time freaking putting these horrible chemicals in food, and they're just watching us and seeing what happens generation after generation with what they're doing to us. Everybody's in on it. I mean,
That's what I was gonna say. Everyone's in on it. Is it? Can we? Is it Nazi, or is it just now? Just the whole.
it's been before
Oh,
the Nazis. It's literally was originally, we're an ET petri dish, and every nation on Earth came about from either one of them or our own doing. But no, it's not Nazi. It's not anything like that. It's literal ET or
ET.
extraterrestrial,
It's
or
ET.
extraterrestrial or extra dimensional beings that have been using this as, this is literally a lab.
So this is a lot of just alien mixing genetics, trying to, just petri, just a petri dish, just experimenting
Mhm.
on us. And the
Mhm.
government gave them permission to do that. Is that right? Or have they been doing this before?
They
You
were
know,
doing this before, but at the same time, it's this same group that's throughout numerous points in time, has numerous bases of operation, and they don't want, you know, you may have freaking certain high level classified, but even then, unless you have the secret level classified, you won't even know there's a door in the middle of your base that leads to one of those sanctums or one of the tunnels. It's like that type hidden level.
well, there's definitely some stuff going on in the world. I've had a lot of visions. Um, Maybe on our next show we can touch base on the vaccines and everything, and then some of the other stuff that's happening. But definitely, I want to continue
I got
on.
I got I got a message for the world on those vaccines.
Okay.
Um, and there's one video I want to do in particular involving the future, and a message to the future clones that we are, but yet we're not physically there yet.
We're
It'll make
getting
more
there.
sense. I'll explain it. I'll explain it in that particular one. But those are two I definitely would
Okay.
want to tell the world.
Well, let's look forward to that for the next show, Mark. And so let's go ahead and sign off. And again, it was really great to talk to you. And I so appreciate it. I know it's some pretty emotional stuff that I'm having you remember. So, but I just want to say thank you again, and thank you for people that are going to be watching this after this and learning. So basically, they can get a hold of you if anyone has any questions. Are you open for answering those? Do you want them to hit you up on
Yeah,
Facebook?
they can hit me up on Facebook. You can send me a message through my videos, and I can send you an email in private, and I'm more than happy to talk as long as you're not going to be plaguing or harassing me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
So for now, Mark, let's say that they email you on your YouTube channel, and then we'll go ahead and make sure that this gets put up hopefully tonight or tomorrow. And then again, when we stream next time, it definitely will go to your channel. And we had a little technical technical issues trying to get it to stream to your channel. That's why it's on mine, but we'll try to do it to both. So anyways, all right. Well, you have a good night.
I will.
And I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, then.
All right.